All right, Lara Jackson, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm honored to have been asked to come on. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, listen, you earned your way on here. You're one of the best swimmers in history. You're in the Hall of Fame for, is it Arizona Swimming Hall of Fame?
Yeah, the Arizona Athletics.
Yes, Arizona Athletics. So, I mean, once you get to that status, girl, you know, I have to beg you to come on these things. Listen, you've got a great story, a super interesting story, and one that needs to be shared, and I think one a lot of people can relate to. So we're going to go through it in detail, but you're just telling me something happened on the weekend. It was a great story. I want to record it. What happened?
So I was riding my horse, Calypso, and it was a great ride. She was being good. We've been together since I was 16, so not too worried about things. But we were riding by the park, and this guy was doing a workout on the soccer fields with those parachutes that you wear on your back, and you run, and it gets really big and it goes really high. And we were just riding by when he took off and scared her, so she just took off with me, and we were running, and it's a walking path, so thank goodness there weren't too many people on there. But she was going for a little good while before I could get her started or stopped. But to do that, you kind of try to pull their head around, and so she's going kind of to the right, and she ran me into a low branch, and I got impaled and probably broke my collarbone. So
Oh gosh, impaled sounds like it went through the skin, did it?
yeah, well, it didn't go through the shoulder, but it was a mesquite tree, so there's like this gash that goes down. It's a small hole, but it goes down in.
Wow.
So even when you're not swimming, you get shoulder pains.
God. I don't know much about horses, but I mean, you've been with Calypso for many years, like you said, but even still, they get spooked and can just take off like that.
Yeah, I mean, they are animals that are prey. So just instinctually, they're always kind of, if they're not, at home or where they feel real comfortable, they're always just paying attention to their surroundings. And anything could be something hunting them, trying to get them in their mind, even though they've been domesticated. But that's how they survive in the wild, is they are on alert, fight or flight. And with horses, flight's a lot better for them.
Yeah. Well, so you got the Arizona shirt on now. You come full circle back to your roots in terms of your coaching there now. What's that experience like to be a coach back at a place where you swam?
It's a dream come true. When I left Arizona, I was ready to kind of do something different. I had been there a while, but obviously had some of the best years of my life there. Kind of went all over the place and tried different things and had a lot of fun doing it. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just you get to a certain age and you kind of are looking for something a little more familiar. And the last place I'd ever felt like was home was Tucson, and I never found that anywhere else. And so about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I kind of was starting thinking, I would really love to end up back in Tucson. It's so much, it's the university, it's the program that I swam for, it's the city, it's the people, it's just everything. Very special place. And so coming back, it's like exactly the same, but so different. So it's kind of hard not to reminisce and remember back when I was on the team. But it's been great. This crew has been so accepting and welcoming to me. There are some coach transition nightmare stories, and I just feel really lucky that I didn't really have to deal with a lot of pushback, and it's been so much fun. And I really feel like the team's already evolved so much in a year, so it's been great.
Yeah, that's cool for them. It's cool for you. There's really no place like home. I've been getting super kind of homesick lately. I mean, I guess through the pandemic, like just stuck in a house all day long. Like I definitely missed Australia, but then, with some of the things that were going on back there and the way that they were treating the pandemic. I didn't miss it too much, but they took a different approach. But I definitely miss family and friends, and so it's good for you to be back in a place that's very familiar to you. Like I said, you have a very unique story, very interesting story. You go on to win 9 NCAA titles, which is something that you and I have in common, by the way. We both won 9 NCAA titles. But you won a couple of individual 50 freestyles, so you're up on me on that one. But
well, you got to go to the Olympics, so there
I
we
did.
go.
I did. We're gonna talk about your experience with that in a second. But very successful collegiately for sure. But the interesting part of your story is that you were a walk-on, and I think this is where a lot of kids can relate, because as a head coach, I had a lot of kids come to me and say, "Hey, Brett, I want to swim at Auburn. I want to be part of your team. I want to be part of your history." And at the time, a lot of them just I felt weren't ready for it, and so you kind of have to take a chance sometimes of like, should I give this kid a chance? And that's what happened with you at Arizona. And it turned out that you go on to have all this incredible success, but there's so many factors that go into that from the moment you go on as a walk-on to the moment you have success. And that's kind of what I want to, play out here is like, how did that happen? How were you able to have that ultimate success?
Wow, that's kind of a loaded question. It is hard, especially being in the coaching seat now. Not that I have to make the hard decisions, thank goodness. But, taking risks on people, I think for me personally, I had a fantastic club coach, Wright Stanton III, swam under Fort Bliss Barracudas back in the day. And he was just, even now they do less, but I would say I didn't really swim a lot of yardage, but he was all about technique. And he did a lot of research on the latest, developments coming out in the sport. And he would change our strokes, not just one stroke, not just one aspect of the stroke, but basically all of our strokes every year, just kind of evolving them. And he would, for a club, he was like really creative, getting out bands and, different toys to make us feel different things. So through my high school years and middle school, he made me very aware of my body and what it was doing. In a way, like what they used to say is, you got to be your own best coach. And that's so true. There's so much that, a coach can't see and that you're feeling that you have to be in tune with, which I really feel is the difference between just good athletes and great ones. So from a young age, kind of being educated instead of just throwing lots of garbage yardage at, making me a student of the sport. And just also keeping me back. He didn't train me so much that I got fed up of it, that I wanted to quit or was burnt out. And, he left room to grow still when I did turn 18 or when I could start lifting weights. I wasn't maxed out, but he just put all the basics on me perfectly so that I could fill out and get stronger and just keep going. And
okay, let me ask you a question on that then, because that's interesting, and we can kind of use this as a platform to ask more questions. So in terms of just that, when a young coach is listening to this, or a high school coach, when you say I wasn't, burnt out, so you hadn't lifted weights at this stage, right?
No.
Okay. And then how many workouts a week are you doing?
Well, I was kind of not the most reliable in high school. I would skip some practices until it got serious. Kind of tease me about it now because I'm so intense. But I would say when I was into it, I would do 5 or 6 practices a week. But probably first semester would be like 4 or 5.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. So that's great too, because I want to get to this is like, all right, you're doing 4 or 5 practices a week. You're skipping But now you're asking to go to a program like Arizona, who's held at a very high standard. They're one of the best in the country. They got some of the best coaches, and they're asking you to turn up to every workout and be productive. So like there's risk here. When you come to Arizona and say, I want to swim, and then they find out that you're skipping practices and you want to walk onto the team, there's an element of risk with that. And you know that now that you're recruiting athletes, you're like, well, why would I take a chance on somebody that's not even bothering to turn up to high school practice, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like do as I say, not as I do, now that I'm a coach. But it's so I think what my strength was my mental side. And I think they saw some really good habits in my stroke. You know, sometimes you're analyzing video and you're like, how did that swimmer go that fast on that stroke? But they saw potential in that. And just, I don't know, I had done really well at state. I don't know if they knew about my practice habits, but I have to give a shout out here. I got the opportunity to go to Arizona because well, one, you know, walk on. I just came. It was free to them a little bit. But Greg Rhodenbaugh, who recruited me, he swam with a friend of my dad's, Mark Tomlin. And Mark was like, hey, you guys should check this girl out. So I did kind of have a connection, but you know, I knew what I was like in college. You know, I feel like a lot of high school people, they're like, they can get away with just their talent. But in college, I kind of was like, I'm either going to not swim at all or I'm going to be all in, because it was like the next step. You know, it was time to grow up and evolve. So personally, I had gone in there, made that decision on the inside. It was way easier to say than to do. There was a lot of crying my first year, being overwhelmed, but you know, once I got a taste at PAX of how fun this is on a team, I was addicted. And it was
It's
never an
interesting.
issue.
Yeah. You know, it can be super overwhelming that first semester. It's like you come in and all of a sudden you are in the weight room. You're at all the practices. I mean, you're around people that are way better than you. You got coaches that are super motivated and driving, and then you're going to school and balancing all that. And then you're trying to figure out a social life as a freshman. So it's like very overwhelming. Destro Swim Towers. Gain strength in the water with a tower of power. Save $150 per double swim tower by using code BRETT, B-R-E-T-T, at checkout. DestroMachines.com. Vasa has been the go-to training tool outside of the pool for over 30 years. Vasa's products are ideal for developing power and proper technique in your swimmer's catch. Add a few Vasa trainers to your pool deck, and it's like adding an extra lane to your swimming pool. Go to vasatrainer.com, use code BRETT at checkout, and get 10% off anything from Vasa. So what were the things that were a struggle for you at that point?
I would just say the sheer workload.
Right.
It went from not even swimming 6 days a week most of the time to 9 swim practices, 3 lifts, dry land. So my body took a long time to adapt. I think I was just tired my whole freshman year. But you know, the way that the team kind of brought people in, like they never treated me like I was a walk-on or that I wasn't going to make it. Having just that kind of support, you know, I was always the last one on the run and everybody's there cheering for you in. Just how invested everyone was in each other, it made you want to be part of it. So even if I was struggling, I would rather be dying and become part of this group than be like, I can't do this. Yeah.
You had some superstar athletes on the team at the time. So who were some of the girls that you were looking up to your freshman year that kind of, you know, took you under their wing?
So in particular, we did what was called, I think they do like big sister, little sister. They call it like this, but we call them cubby buddies. And so my cubby buddy was Marcy Smith. She was the, I believe, 2,500 back NCAA champion, which was surprising that they put me with her because, you know, you think they would pair her off. She was such a stud with a higher ranking, I guess, freshman, but she just taught me how to be a badass. She had this badass attitude and was fun about it. And she really, you know, was like there for me. And we were both the worst runners, and, you know, we both got better just kind of feeding off of each other's energy. And she really was a role model to me, probably the one I looked up to the most my freshman year. But of course you have Whitney Myers on that team. You have, you know, Lacey Niemeyer, just no shortage of ladies to look up to who were strong and also team people, team players.
Right. So you get through your freshman year and learn a lot. Things start to click, I guess, kind of sophomore year for you, and then and beyond. I mean, you start to have real success. I guess the time of when I notice you is when you're really good, you know, and all of a sudden you're the fastest swimmer in NCAA history. And that's when you kind of go on everybody's radar. I just remember standing on the side of the pool and thinking, and you think this now, I'm sure you see girls swim, you know, there's some girls swimming 20.9 now, you know, it's just ridiculous how fast it's gotten. But it's like you see swims like that now and you're like, oh wow, that girl's so much better than everybody else. So when I was watching you at the time, I'm thinking that to myself. There's obviously tons of work that's gone into this, but you were just so good, and you carried yourself with an extreme amount of confidence. What are the things that you were doing in the pool, in the practice pool, that was helping you get to that meet and walk around with that type of confidence?
Well, definitely, you know, even before I kind of had a breakout swim, just having Rick DeMont, you know, he really believed in me, and you know, kind of was like, yeah, you can be that girl. You can be that girl on the top of the podium, and, you know, just kind of planting seeds even before it was happening. But I think he knew something was coming. So kind of having that belief pumped into you, as well as, you know, my parents, but parents always tell you you're the best, but you know, you do need that too, no matter what. Like, I think having that support system behind you, and then just the detail work that I had done through high school, carrying it, evolving it with, you know, Rocket, who's probably, you know, in my eyes, you know, one of the best sprint coaches there'll ever be. So having his mad genius behind me, his workouts, he did a really good job of getting us to a strong place of sprinting and finishing a sprint like a sprint. You know, I had never really seen this kind of training, I guess, you know, kind of broken efforts or repeat fast efforts, what I like to call, you know, like kind of that sprint endurance. I never really done anything like that, and I think I really thrived under that kind of training. I was really explosive, so anything that got kind of longer, I would fall off the stroke that I wanted to kind of have throughout a real race. So, and he made it interesting. So, yeah, and I did a lot of growing up. So, you know, that mentality of, and seeing it as a coach too, is, you know, just kind of looking at yourself realistically. You know, when we're young, it's kind of hard to do that. But if you want to be the best, you want to, you know, have those kind of goals, then you also kind of have to look at what you're doing that hurts yourself, or how you hold yourself back mentally or with your habits, and kind of reworking that too, which, you know, really, I think combination of all those things helps all of that take off.
Yeah. You had one of the most deadly starts in the world. I mean, it was a weapon of yours. You were super athletic. You got off the block well, athletically. I mean, you just set up really well, and then your entry and your underwaters through your breakouts were just out of this world at the time. So, how much of that, when you look back now, and now you're a coach, I mean, a lot of that is kind of genetics for you, because you had a crazy big vertical jump. You could do certain things athletically, but then you also want to help other people improve their starts. So is it frustrating for you because you were so good at that aspect of it that you see other people? Is it hard to translate that athleticism sometimes?
Yeah, the dive is a tricky thing. I do think there are athletes that got hops and some that don't. I mean, working with athletes on their dives now, not everyone, like you said, can jump like that, or not everyone's flexible enough to get into certain positions, which I always tell them, like, you guys can fix that. But there's so many different like body types and ways that they move that I don't think one dive can fit all. And I think everybody can learn to have a better dive. I don't think everyone can be like the best diver, if that makes sense. It's genetics, natural ability definitely plays into it. But not to get into a whole dive breakdown, but I think by using kind of the momentum and snap of your upper body, no matter how good of a jumper you are, you can kind of get some height, more height than what you might get, really kind of carrying you up, mixed, with the back leg kick up and get a good angle flying. I find most people don't really try to fly. They're just trying to get in a good line and hit the water, and they kind of just go straight in.
Yeah.
But, I think it's athlete by athlete, just trying to give them the best of what they can work with. That's really all you can do.
Yeah, the dive is a frustrating part of the equation because it looks so simple, and especially when you see someone like you do it, you break down video, you're like, oh, look how easy that looks. But it's just it's a fluid athletic movement that's really difficult to teach and change. I think the dive is the hardest aspect of anybody to change because they have certain patterns that are just bred into them that are extremely difficult to change. The other thing about the Arizona Sprinters at the time, you guys were fairly revolutionary across the board, and this a lot to do with Rick DeMont, like you said, Rocket, the way he was coaching you guys. You were swimming with a style that was kind of cutting edge and on the forefront of freestyle, right? Very open stroke, maybe even straight arm type work, but very open, very big. When you look at freestyle now, and especially when I'm thinking about breaststroke, like how breaststroke has evolved in the last 10, 15 years, do you think of freestyle like, what can we do next? How can we go faster? Like, is there some major change we need to make?
Oh man.
That's a tough one, huh?
I mean, I guess I've never really thought about it like what's next.
You need to start thinking that way, girl. Okay, start thinking, because when I watched you, that's what I thought. I'm like, that's next. Like, that's the future. When I watched you swim, I'm like, that's the future of freestyle. And so now I'm putting it back on you as somebody that changed the way women swim. You did. Look back. You changed the way women were swimming. And it might have been a group of you, but you were part of it. And now we have to figure out, all right, how are we going to get girls to go 20.3, 20.2?
Well, what are your ideas?
My idea is to challenge you because you're coaching. Listen, I don't know. It's difficult. You're right. It's so difficult. I'm like, all right, how do we go faster? But that's something that I often think.
I think so. I don't think we can come up with it well, maybe some people can, but kind of the way my brain works is I love watching a lot of video, kind of seeing tendencies in strokes. For simple example, there's a lot of pressing on the front end of a stroke. Like a straight arm freestyler is probably going to get a lot of press in that beginning part, So I think it'll happen like one little aspect of a stroke and then it'll make a chain reaction, So right now personally what I've been working on with my athletes, not that it's groundbreaking, is just kind of getting on that deeper water quick, not, you know, getting a press up front. I don't know, just, and maybe throughout exploring that or seeing different people swimming, something will just click with a coach somewhere and a new idea would be born. But I mean, I don't know, you get as much water and throw it as quickly as possible. I think that's the name of the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love watching sprinters. Is there any female in the NCAA right now who you're impressed with, that is doing some things in sprint that is kind of next level?
I mean, just like you said, just people going 20 point.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away.
Seems like an everyday occurrence now. Like girls are going 21 flats like it's nobody's business. And I'm like, that used to be so quick.
You know what impresses me? I mean, the quicker are getting quicker, but the depth, you know, like you go to 20, like just the amount of people going even 21, like it's everybody now. It used to be just top 2 or 3 at NCs.
Right.
So it's like, if you have a space of like, let's say like 21.5 to 21.9, there could be 40 athletes in there, you know, like not yet, but it's just packing in so dense. Everyone's getting competitive, you know, there's not, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I'll ask you this then. I'm gonna make you dig deep on this one. So you're trying to swim faster than anybody in history, and you end up accomplishing that a couple of times, right? You set some American records, you set some NCAA records. So before those things happened, how do you look at it? How do you think to yourself, I want to swim, I'm going to swim faster than anybody's swum before? How does that belief or that the idea even come about to think that you could do something like that?
Well, I think obviously as you inch closer, you know, for me personally, it didn't start with, I'm going to try to be the American record holder. Not that it's something you're not thinking about, but it started like for, you know, my sophomore year, Carolyn Joyce was a senior and she had won 3 years in a row. So I love Carolyn, but you know, it's competition. And here I am a sophomore. It starts as, well, I want to dethrone her, you know, and she was swimming right next to the American record at that time of, I think it was 21.68, and she was going 21.71, I think at the time. So then it's like, well, first you just want to, you know, beat someone, and then that time's close. And then you get that time, and then it's like, how far can we go? Let's just keep going. Let's make this record last 10 years, you know? But I think to really be the best, and maybe different personalities work differently, is that you have to really be intrinsically motivated. You can't be someone that compares a lot. You're always kind of sharpening the sword, like where you can take advantage of getting ahead. And just because nobody else has done it before. If you want to do what no one else has done, you can't compare yourself with others. So I feel like you have to really be on that journey committed, not alone because you have your support systems, but at the end of the day, you know, it's you up on the block. So I think it's, yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but
no, that's a good way to describe it. I like that. I mean, everything you said made a lot of sense. You broke it down into something that was fairly simple. I mean, you start with kind of a dream, then you attack your competition, and then once you surpass them, it's like, let's see how good I can get. And then, like you said, you walk in with that attitude every day of, I want to get better, I want to be the best. And when you walk in with that attitude, great things can happen because you're coming in with an expectation of holding yourself accountable to doing things every day that you may not have done in practice, of like, all right, today I'm going to do something better than I did it yesterday, which then over time accumulates into, now you're this, you know, this weapon that has put in an immense amount of work. And then when you stand behind the blocks, it's just a matter of letting that come out, right?
Unleash the beast, as Rocket used to say.
Unleash the beast. Oh, a rocket. Okay, I'm going to take that. I like it. Swim Angelfish. Swim Angelfish is an online certification program that strengthens your teaching curriculum to serve swimmers of all abilities. Swim Angelfish will prepare you and your instructors with the skills to teach swimmers with autism, physical disabilities, anxiety, sensory and motor conditions, and more. Learn to teach skills faster and with more comfort with Swim Angelfish. Apply for an Only Alpha Pool Product Scholarship and receive up to 50% off your certification. Go to swimangelfish.com today to apply. Now, listen, let's go back to then your Olympic experiences, because 2008 was interesting, and I just want to record this as kind of part of history, but it's most people wouldn't know this, that you break the American record in the prelims. And tell me about that, first of all, because you end up going a little bit slower in semis and finals, but you break the American record in the morning, which I would always advise against because it puts you in a position where there's a huge amount of pressure on you. But you end up finishing third behind Dara Torres and Jessica Hardy, and then kind of a whole series of events unfolded after that. But in terms of breaking the American record in the morning, start there and tell me what that experience was like.
It was my first trials. I was just of the attitude that I was super stoked to be there. Not, I thought I had a good chance of making top 8. But long course was something that came later for me. So it was hard to really kind of count myself as one of the big girls. I was still kind of like, okay, it's long course. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I had a, great college season, obviously. Riding that momentum obviously helped going into that summer, and then show up at prelims. And it was kind of like that. I have nothing to lose, no target on my back at that point. And I just really, I think, hit the dive and breakout of my life and rode it into the wall. It felt easy. And it was shocking. I wasn't aiming for it, but I was excited. I was, racing Dara in prelims right next to each other, and touching her out was, as I was younger at the time, and felt like just a huge confidence boost, and just got really excited. But yeah, I just think I let the horses run and just felt good because there were no expectations. And then, you make it, back first seed, and it, like you said, there's pressure, but that didn't really bother me. I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. I live for this.
Really? See, I had a very similar experience at a World Championships once, where everything you said about the prelims kind of happened to me, and I ended up fastest qualifier in the world at the World Championships after the prelims. So going into semis, I'm in lane 4, and I've got all these, people around me that I looked up to, kind of like you. And I felt the same way up until the point where I stood behind the blocks. And the moment I stood behind the blocks was the realization of like, oh, wow, I'm the fastest in the world right now. And I froze, like just a slight freeze. It wasn't like a huge freeze, but it was just like a moment of like, like, did you not experience that at the trials? Like just a moment of like, oh God.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know. So prelims, no stress. Let's do it. I'm ready. I didn't really feel that in semis, and then I qualified 4th in semis. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm still I have a lane. I have an opportunity. I would say probably in the finals, I felt a more like, all right, well, this is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. You can get out of this pool and call yourself an Olympian or not. So, I mean, I try to never go down that path, because I know it's a slippery slope, and just try to keep it as, look what you've accomplished. Look where you are. look where you've earned to be, like, count yourself in. You're playing for all the marbles, you know, you're in it. So, you know, just kind of trying to be logical. Obviously you're feeling all sorts of adrenaline and your body feels like it's on fire, you're ready to go. But I feel like I was usually able to stay pretty level headed. I think my problem was more like letting myself let it out. If that makes sense. I don't know. Like, I really needed that pressure, that stimulation. I liked that. If there wasn't any sort of stakes on the line, that's when I felt like the racing was the hardest. So there's a lot of nerves, but also that's energy. That's adrenaline. You can use that.
Yeah. What you know about sprint is, you know, in a situation like the morning where it felt easy and you don't remember how you did it, and then there are other times where you can almost feel every stroke and the lactate spikes at the end of, you know, 35 meters. It just seems like a tougher swim. I'm sure you kind of had a moment like that where, you know, you compare the two and it's like the easy one was so much faster than the one that was a little slower. It seemed to be a little bit harder. So in terms of sprint, I'm sure you've learned from those experiences and try to give those experiences to your athletes. You can't try harder in sprint. You can't do that, can you?
No, it's really like a controlled chaos, because in a way you have to be all out, all on the line. Everything's on the table,
Right.
but it can't be forced. You have to kind of, it's, I think especially, I mean, sprint free too, but I think like the sprint, like a 50 fly and a 50 breast, like every time I have an athlete swimming that, I'm like, remember the rhythm, you know, it's such a feel to it. And yeah, there's so many aspects go to it, but it's so inconsistent too, you know. I don't know how you felt, but in your racing career, I felt like a variety of like 10 different ways. Like sometimes you don't feel that good, you go great. You feel great, you don't go good. I don't know. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You're right. There are some moments where, you know, especially in season, it can so many things that you can feel and a range of things, but generally at a big meet, fully tapered and fully rested, I generally felt the same way. If I was trained well and I was prepared, you know, I could get into a very comfortable rhythm of like, all right, I know how to get my best performance in this moment right now. So I think that was pretty similar, especially because I had, you know, a lot of experience even beyond college. I swam for 6 years. So I know you were the same way in terms of your professional career, just getting more chances to race. And I think being race ready puts you in that scenario. We individualize training in the pool, so why not individualize your nutrition? Erica Beine of Beine Wellness Building will help you and your swimmers get exactly what each athlete needs through genetic testing and personalized nutrition plans. So stop guessing what you should and shouldn't be putting into your body. Athletes within a few weeks have noticed they're recovering faster because they're fueling their body with what they need and staying away from what their body hates. Erica understands swimming. She gets it. She's worked with over 20 Olympians, including the fastest man in the world, Caleb Dressel. Group discounts are available, so go to Beine Wellness Building and get in touch with Erica today. That's Beine, Beine, wellnessbuilding.net. You and I have talked privately about what happened next. You know, you finished third and missed the Olympic team, and then Jessica Hardy ends up testing positive, and this whole fiasco of her being pulled off the team, but then they don't add you to the team. Have you had a chance to talk about this publicly at all, or is this the first time?
yeah, there were some interviews closer to when it happened. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've talked about it.
How do you feel about it now, looking back? Like, are your feelings the same, or have they changed over time?
Um, I would say so. Obviously, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity missed, which, you know, to a degree, you can't say, I'm okay with that. You know, there's definitely what ifs, because it's not just, you know, the momentum in your career, which, you know, since you continued, like, it's very important. And kind of going through that whole situation was kind of like hitting a speed bump. You know, you're dealing with kind of your emotional, you know, aftermath of it, but also, you know, what, you know, I was finishing my college career, what that could have done as far as money making potential, like all sorts of things of how your life could have been different and had you had that opportunity. In the moment, I brushed it off. I was like, I can't get bogged down with this right now. I have a senior year to finish. We were the NCAA champions. We wanted to defend our title. And I just kind of was just keep charging through. It wasn't until kind of after everything settled down that it really sunk in, and went through a very kind of depressed period of time in my life about it. I think anyone would probably do the same. You know, in our sport, it's so sad because in our sport, you can be the world record holder, you could win every other thing, but if you don't go to the Olympics, you're no one in the sport. And sadly, that's kind of how it's looked at by definitely people that aren't involved in swimming. Are you an Olympian? No. Oh, okay. Like, so it's, you know, there's always that. Obviously, the people that you work with, the coaches, other people, like other coaches, other athletes, your teammates, everybody knows who's, you know, really done great things in the sport. But, you know, sometimes it just comes down to Olympian. No, okay, then. And, you know, especially at like clinics and stuff. So
yeah, no, listen, I'm with you. I finished third in '96, and I sat there and watched the '96 Olympics, and I missed it by 3/100ths of a second. And then I go on and have this amazing collegiate career after that, and then I finally make the Olympic team. And the difference between being a non-Olympian who's had an incredible collegiate career like I had, and then becoming an Olympian in other people's eyes was night and day. Like I became a completely different athlete because I made this Olympic team. And you know, Sergio Lopez asked me this question the other day on this app that I'm on called Any Question. But basically, I answered this question where he said, you know, is it a state of mind? Is success a state of mind? And in a way, it is. Like what you think of yourself and your career is your opinion. But the reality of it is that everybody else has an opinion too. And their state of mind is if you're not an Olympian, somehow you're not a successful athlete of some. It makes no sense to you and I. It's easy for me to sit on this side of it now that I am an Olympian, but I was in your shoes completely, and I felt the same way. You know what I mean? I was proud of who I was.
yeah, I mean, today, like, I really can't look back at my career and say it wasn't enough. You know, I got to be the American record holder in both 50s, meters, yards, swam on an amazing team, got to win NCAAs as a team individually on relays, and, you know, met some great people, had some great mentors, and not everything shook out exactly how I would have liked it. But I cannot say I'm not satisfied with and proud of what I accomplished. And to be quite honest, now that I'm coaching, a lot of the hard times that I went through, it's making me a better coach. If my career just went all, you know, perfect, like how could I help or really sympathize and understand what some of my athletes are going through? So in a way, kind of, that's really where I started healing, is when I started coaching again. Is, you know, I'm still contributing to the sport, contributing to other people's lives, passing on, you know, all the knowledge that I was lucky enough to have from amazing mentors across the board. So I feel really, you know, at peace with it now because I can use it as a tool and help, other people in their journeys, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a good perspective, and it's a great way to look at it. And I got to tell you, I'm an Olympian, and I finished 6th at the Olympics, and I was on a team with Ian Thorpe, Grant Hackett, Michael Klim. I mean, some of the greatest swimmers in history, and I felt like a complete loser because I finished 6th at the Olympics and didn't win a medal. So it's like, you still get to the next level, and there's still ways that you can figure out how to feel like a loser. So don't worry about it. It's just the way it is in sport. It's like if you don't win an Olympic medal of some sort, then you haven't had success either. But it's like there are so many positives to come from. And like I said, when I looked at you in the pool when you're at your best, I mean, I saw excellence. I saw somebody that was doing something that no one else was doing. And it's the reason why we're talking today, because you were so damn good at what you did. So I was a huge fan. I still am. I even had the chance to coach you for a little period of time, which was exciting for me and a huge honor. I do think that at some point, and I'll tell you this publicly, I did feel like you were carrying some baggage of like past experiences. So like that was difficult for me to coach you at that point in time as a later athlete. You had stuff that you were bringing into this situation. Did you notice that at the time, or is that something you can reflect on?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So yeah, just kind of stepping back a little bit. One, I appreciate those kind words. It means a lot coming from someone like you. Two, I feel like when I was in college, there were two sprint programs. There was you and there was us. And so, you can't help but to be curious. What are they doing on the other side? And I always kind of was curious about coming to swim with you. And I was super excited about the opportunity to come in. I think it was 2014 to 2015. I don't know. Years. Once you get to be 35, you're like, what year was that?
Yeah, no.
But no, definitely I was dealing with a lot of stuff personally. I had in my personal, like my father had passed, and just the whole fiasco of the Olympics and kind of other, swim career stuff kind of not going as planned. And, I think I was just trying to barrel through and make it happen without addressing problems that probably need to be addressed. And even through all that, I really enjoyed swimming at Auburn with you. It was fun, our little pro group. And like seeing I really enjoyed your podcast you did with Michelle and Bruno after, because kind of, got to see them and you guys working together, and then to see it finally play off. But yeah, definitely not an easy part of my life in those years. And, but I did learn a lot. And I think anyone that's, dealt with those kind of things, kind of the disappointment of the swim career. I think any athlete, especially, you swam after college as well. When you do hang up this suit, or you're getting toward the end, you're kind of like, well, who am I?
Yeah.
Because so much of your confidence and who you are is tied up in being an elite athlete, and you can't do that forever. And then still kind of dealing with my dad's death. So I mean, and everybody has stuff that happens in their lives. So
yeah, I was going to say that. Now as a coach, when I think of my experience with you, I was so honored and I felt so privileged to, be able to coach somebody that I really admired. And then when you came in, and I wasn't able to help you the way I wanted to help you because of whatever the restrictions were, like I said, I felt like there was some baggage there that maybe got in the way, but I couldn't figure out a way to get into that either. And so what I'm saying to you now as a coach, when you see somebody that has their own struggles or their own disappointments, or even their own kind of expectations of the way they think a season should go, and it doesn't end up going that way, how do you then, as a coach, what part of it is yours? What part of it is theirs? What part of it is a shared experience? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have that evaluation as a coach of like, man, I really feel like I disappointed that person, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think good coaches do kind of, feel responsible to a degree. That was not the case with us, so you can let go of any of that if you've been feeling. But I think the important thing is, and everybody's different, as you know, but is just to try to really hear them, because you can also kind of evaluate. Sometimes they just need to be heard, and then sometimes through listening to what they have to say, like, some people don't know they are where they are. Like, I would say when I was swimming with you, I knew I was in a bad spot, but I wasn't looking in the right places to fix it. Like, I was looking externally to fix things, and I really just needed to look at myself. And that's the hardest thing for a lot, like, people to do, and it's kind of hard as a coach to be like, not that you're blaming them, but it's like you need to look inside and kind of own it. It's, I don't know if that sounds really harsh now that I'm saying it, but what I'm trying to say is I wasn't in a place of acceptance to be able to move forward. So I think that's the first step, is just helping them and open that door. And sometimes you can't, I know I wasn't ready. I kind of had to do it on my own. That's something I don't think you could have done for me, but I don't know. It's difficult. Coaching's not an easy job.
Coaching's difficult. Yeah, it is. It is difficult. But it sounds like you have an acute understanding and a compassion for what you're doing and the athletes that you're working with. So that's part of my next pitch here then. So, like, as we wrap this up, why swim for Arizona? Why come and swim at your program? What is it about Arizona now that you feel like is a great place for kids to come and swim?
Well, as I said before, it's so much more than just the university. Not just me, but several alum I talked to. Arizona, the city, is very special. There's just this kind of local feel, lots of local art, local restaurants, that Tucson way of living and doing things that I've really bought into, and I know a lot of other people, and you miss that. The people are nice, friendly, go to the same places and people know your name. The university is beautiful. Shoot, they've expanded so much, even just since I left, like about a decade ago. Beautiful brick buildings, the cactus. It's a region in the world, only region in the world where saguaros grow. So it's very special. You can only find them here.
Wow.
But also just the program. This is the program I love. And, even when I left, I was always a wildcat. To accomplish what we accomplished as a team when I was there, you really had to buy into, the greater good of the team, and you sacrifice for the team, and you're doing it for that. And I think that they did such a good job of doing that to us that it never died out in me. So, I've always been passionate about this program. Augie was here before too. There's a lot of history here. And I really, this year, it's been, COVID was a rough year for a lot of programs. And it's nice to see not just Arizona, but seeing them come out into normal and be able to train and compete and be a team, which is what's always set this team this program out from others. Is I really love, we would always say, honor your team with your effort, which is I love that. It's about being selfless. And now our saying is team over self. And that is something that, the team culture is very important to us. And as an athlete coming in, it was because of that team support system, I was able to flourish and become what I became. So, you know, it's nice to see that that's carried through. We're in a building stage. It's not the 2008 Wildcats, but that's exactly why I'm here. I want to get in on the ground level. You know, we have a great group of girls and guys. We're going to PAX. Can't wait for that. Our women came back, had some great swims, you know, very, very much improved from last year. And we're just going up, and love this staff, you know, very good team.
Well, I can tell you this, if I was a young swimmer again, whether it be male or female, but if I was looking for a coach that I could connect with who had an understanding, if I was a young sprinter, I'd want somebody who had been there and done that, who have had success at the highest level, and the people that you've been mentored by and the programs that you've been in and the experiences that you've had. There's no one better in the NCAA as far as somebody that I think can have a deep understanding of sprint and how to get people to swim fast. So I would definitely sign up and come swim for you in a, you know, 10 out of 10 times. So I wish you all the best. I appreciate you doing this for us, and good luck with everything. All right.
Thanks, Fred. Really appreciate everything. And it's been an honor to be on. So thanks for everything.
Yep. Thanks for sharing your experiences. Lara, take care. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Event, heat, lane, name of swimmer, times and places. It's called Swimnerd Live, and it allows the data and times from your actual scoreboard to be broadcast and viewed in real time on any smart TV, phone, or other device. There are so many things you can do with this software. A very simple and easy to use necessity for any team or facility that is live streaming their meets results. One click on any device and they're watching your swim meet live in real time. Go to swimpractice.com to learn more.